Sandra Ellis lived her life with a quiet sense of control. Her home in the idyllic neighborhood of Meadowbrook Lane was her fortress, a pristine sanctuary of order and familiarity. From her favorite spot by the living room window, she kept an unwavering watch over the comings and goings of her cul-de-sac, a self-appointed sentinel of the neighborhood's tranquility. But the day the new neighbors arrived, Sandra's carefully constructed world began to crack. It started with the moving truck. Sandra's coffee cooled in her hands as she watched from behind the lace curtains. The house next door had been vacant for weeks, and she had speculated endlessly about who might fill the void. When the first figure stepped out, a tall, dark-skinned man with a confident stride, Sandra's stomach twisted with unease. His wife followed, a striking woman with a bright smile, trailed by two energetic children who dashed toward the house with youthful excitement. Sandra's fingers tightened around her mug. Something about them felt different. For days, Sandra's unease grew. Jordan, the man of the house, left every morning in a crisp suit, returning late in the evening. Monica, his wife, jogged daily, waving at neighbors with effortless warmth, though Sandra avoided her gaze. The children, Milo and Arya, filled the yard with laughter as they played. On the surface, everything seemed ordinary, but Sandra's instincts whispered otherwise. She began watching them obsessively, every movement catalogued in her mind. When Jordan paced the driveway on his phone one evening, his tone low and serious, Sandra's pulse quickened. It's a secretive conversation, she thought. What was he hiding? The next day, she cornered a few neighbors during a community meeting. Has anyone noticed the new family? The husband, Jordan. He's always pacing, talking in hushed tones. I'm not saying anything definitive, but doesn't it seem suspicious? Her concerns were met with shrugs. They seem fine, someone replied. Friendly, even. Maybe you're reading too much into it. But Sandra couldn't let it go. Her paranoia deepened when Jordan hosted a barbecue. A group of men gathered in the backyard, laughing and chatting. To Sandra, their camaraderie was unnerving. They're plotting something, she muttered. Her fear mounted until it spilled over into a call to the police. Yes, I'd like to report suspicious activity, Sandra told the dispatcher, her voice trembling. She exaggerated every detail. The men's supposed aggression, the imagined disturbance. By the time she hung up, her heart was racing with a mix of anxiety and conviction. When the police arrived, Sandra watched breathlessly as officers approached the backyard. Jordan greeted them calmly. Is there a problem, officers? He asked, his tone steady. Sandra strained to hear, her face pressed against the window. When Jordan disappeared inside, her imagination spiraled. He's getting a weapon, she thought. Her breath caught. Moments later, Jordan returned, holding not a weapon but a badge. Jordan Hall, senior investigator with Homeland Security, he said, his voice firm. Can I help you with something? The officer's demeanor shifted instantly. Apologies flowed. Sandra's chest tightened as Jordan's gaze flickered toward her window, his expression unreadable. By the next morning, Meadowbrook Lane was buzzing with whispers. The police visit, Jordan's credentials, it was all anyone could talk about. Sandra's name came up in every conversation. Her actions were a glaring spotlight on her prejudices, her assumptions, her fear. Sandra's world began to unravel. Neighbors avoided her. Side glances turned into outright whispers. She became a pariah in the community she once felt she governed. For days, she stayed indoors, too ashamed to face the fallout. Then came the knock at her door. Jordan stood on her porch, his expression calm but serious. Sandra, he began, his voice steady, I think we need to talk. Sandra's stomach dropped. She opened the door reluctantly. I know you were the one who called the police, Jordan said. I'm not here to argue, but I want you to understand the weight of what you did. You didn't just put my family at risk. You acted on assumptions that could have had serious consequences. Sandra stammered an apology, her words stumbling over themselves. I didn't mean. That's the problem, Jordan interrupted gently. You didn't think. Next time, I hope you will. With that, he left, his calm authority cutting deeper than any anger might have. Sandra stood in the doorway, hollow and ashamed. In the weeks that followed, Sandra began to confront the truth. She attended workshops on bias, read extensively on prejudice, and sought to understand the fears that had driven her actions. Meanwhile, the Halls thrived. Jordan and Monica became pillars of the community, their grace and resilience winning hearts. Their children, Milo and Arya, flourished at school, their laughter a constant reminder of joy. Sandra's journey was slow, her steps tentative. She volunteered at neighborhood events, quietly mending bridges. Though the scars of her actions lingered, she hoped her efforts would one day turn her story into one of redemption. Meadowbrook Lane remained quiet, but its heart had changed, and so had Sandra.